This video is sponsored by Deep Cut Studios. For a wide range of fantastic gaming resources such as battle mats, dice trays and pre-painted bases, check out the description below.
Hi guys, welcome back to TNG Productions. My name is Tom and we're here for a MaliFAST battle report, a little shortened version of the main ones that we put out. We're going to try it out, see how you like it, so let us know in the comments. So this is the first game of Season 4 this time, and I'm bringing the Vic Super Killy crew after the complications that were Nelly last time. So I've got 7 models here ready and raring to go. Obviously the Viktorias, this is the Vic's 1, and now we've got the titles. They are a 2-master crew, so I've got one Victoria Chambers who's the leader with the ponytail. She's got Soldier for Hire, which will give her hard to kill, and then we've got her big sis who's got the Servant of Dark Powers upgrade. They're accompanied by their sister Vanessa, who also has Soldier for Hire for the extra hard to kill, and a hodgepodge emissary for a little bit of healing. So that's the kind of core of the crew. And then supporting them, we've got a nice little variety of incidental models that can kind of help out in the backfield. So we've got the Student of Conflict, who's really good for Covetous Craving. She's also like a totem for the new Vics, and a pair of Ronin with Wanted Criminal, which gives them escape plan to go along with that on the moves. They just get a free 5-inch move at the start of their activation. So super killy, super fast, really good at scheming in the backfield. And this week I'm against Darren. He's bringing his Queen of the Fae, Titania. Titania 1, representing the Neverborn. So she is a super hard to kill master. She has high HP, good defensive stats, cruel disappointment, and also has hard to wound and leech life. So she's a nightmare to put down. And as we always do, we're very much in the keywords. Darren's got a good backfield of models here that fit the theme really well. But as we always say, Titania comes with her, significant totem Gora, which can mold with the other, like teleport or transform itself into another model, like one of your enforcers if it dies, which is really good. And then Darren played the psychological card. Rather than having a mysterious emissary, he's got the Avatar of Insanity, because he's Pandora'd me there, which might as well be bolted into Titania's keyword, even though it is versatile, because it's got a lot of things it can do with severe terrain, which we know Titania and her abundant growth does. They're accompanied by Killjoy, the Silent Light, really cool model here, just big, killy murder monster. He's equipped with the Inhuman Reflexes card, which gives him Scamper, and he also brings Blood Sacrifice, which is an upgrade that he can place on 2 other models, so that if he dies, he can kind of burst out their chest alien style. So that's gone on Titania and the Voldgeist. We've then got the 8 Soulstone Rougarou, that's got Intimidating Roar, it's got Deadly Pursuit, super speedy and beefy, and a pair of Boltungin. Now this is pre-errata, but they're still pretty good because they're nippy and they've got Toss in the Mud, so they can get rid of conditions and move each other pretty far. And then we've got the aforementioned Voldgeist, which is just a handy model to tank it up and sit there with Killjoy's upgrade, waiting for him to die so he can come back again. So today we are going to be playing a game of Turf War. As you can see, we've deployed in a flank deployment. Now, it's quite interesting the way we've deployed here. Darren's gone quite defensively, and obviously with the Viktorias with battle tempo, I've gone quite spread out and quite quick ahead, because you can see where he's put his abundant growth markers. And this is because I'm going with the standard Vic trick of the triple threat, where you launch 2 Viktorias into the enemy crew, you have Vanessa on the halfway line, pelting and healing, and you just try and get that one counts as mind trigger as much as you can to get lots and lots of kills. They take a load of damage, but they heal up every time they kill, and then you just keep doing that. The scheme pool we've got today, if you want to look away so you don't get this spoiled, we've got Breakthrough, Let Them Bleed, Detonate Charges, Spread Them Out, and Catch and Release, and this is on screen with the ones that we've gone for. Really nice variety of options available to us across the board, but there's a lot of scheming to do when you've got those Turf War markers to be mindful of. So we flipped for initiative. Darren won the initiative flip, chose to go first, but I exercised the 1 pass token that I had in advance to make him have the first activation. So knowing that he has the first activation and last activation of the turn, Darren just gets rid of his incidental model. So the first activation is going to be the Voldgeist, which is going to move up to that patch of severe terrain, just simply get itself there so it can trigger its ambush, which is a 3-inch move, and then it's going to take the concentrate action. And what Darren's trying to do is spread out for his scheming and keep that cage of big tanky models in the hope that perhaps I overextend myself and he can pick off, ideally for him, one of the Vics, if not Vanessa, just to stop that snowball trap. I go next with the Emissary. I sort out my messed up deployment, just try and make sure that I get the Student of Conflict within 6 for Covetous Cravings of Vanessa. So he moves, puts out his aura where he can heal someone when they activate and also give them +1 move, and then you just move along Vanessa, so she drops a ski marker, ready for the Student of Conflict. And then we use plenty of wares, and the main aim of this is to try and get regen, which is the Vitality Potion, on the leader Viktoria, who has hard to kill, just to keep her alive. I fail the initial flip, cheat in an 8, and then I flip a moderate for the heal. We're then on to the Boltungin boys. These guys are going to be an absolute nightmare as the game goes on. Darren's very clever here. He just skirts around the edge of the battlefield, trying to pick off some of these turf war markers. They're just going to move and concentrate during this first turn. Likewise, I'm going to get some simple activations out of the way. My Student of Conflict flicks on a turf marker. I'm trying to get as many on as I can early and then get out of the zone so I can do some kills. And then she's going to go for Covetous Cravings, which successfully goes off, gets rid of that scheme marker and gets fast on Vanessa. 3 AP turn 1, pretty nice with all the movement shenanigans. So good you've seen it once, let's do it again. Boltungin number 2 goes, moves, gets a concentrate action to go with it. Those two are really good at kind of pushing each other along with Toss in the Mud, so they actually get quite a lot of movement along this flank. Again, it also then forces me to be distracted with what's happening on the wing, and that's exactly what happens. I have to activate one of my Ronin. They use that on the move, they use their escape plan to move 5 inches, and it's a simple walk and activate one of these turf wall markers, just so the Boltungin have to then hopefully waste actions trying to turn them off, or try and kill my hard to kill Ronin, which is an absolute pain when they've got disguised from the upgrade. So we're moving out of these kind of quadrants. Likewise, the Goraj just simply moves up. It's going to focus on that turf wall marker, so it just gets a concentrate action ready to turn that on should it go off. And then my Ronin goes into another quadrant on the other flank, hopefully not having to deal with Killjoy. He's the only other model lurking on Darren's side, but it's a simple move and activate, and you can see exactly what we're doing. We've got our main crews in the middle, and we're spreading around to the flanks, hopefully just trying to turn off or on some of these markers so it saves us the hassle in later turns. So onto the main activations now. The Rougarou is going to go up. It's going to start triggering its intimidating roar. Even though Killjoy's terrifying, it somehow growls at him scarily enough to push him up the board. And you're also going to see here that it goes off on the Emissary. Now this is simply just something that it can be relented against. Obviously you can use it on an enemy. But what Darren is doing here is making sure the Emissary is in base contact with the severe terrains, because it heals when it activates. It also gets some benefits from its abilities. And it just puts Killjoy a little further up so that he can potentially threaten, or if Titania decides to launch in on a Vic that's overextended, she's got a little bit of backup. So it's a really good idea. The Rougarou can also shake conditions as a bonus action, doesn't need to do it here, but it just basically sits ready to push people around, and even though it's quite tanky in combat itself. So this is perhaps one of the first key activations. Vanessa goes with her 3 AP. She walks onto the halfway line, and then she starts chucking nukes with her arcane staff, which becomes stat 8 on the halfway line for tactical nuking. Now, this is a little bit of an overextension. Usually I'd hang back and battle tempo onto the halfway line for turn 2, but I'm going to start blasting the Emissary here with this kind of stat 8 attack versus defense of 6. Flipper 13, life is good. So managed to go for the attack here, get a moderate of 2 damage on a negative flip, so a weak of 2 damage, which goes down to 1 with armor. But we then get a second attack off, and it's Red Joker to Black Joker. Always good when that happens to someone else, never when it's you. So we get a severe of 4 damage down to 3 with armor, which gets some good heavy blasting going, but it doesn't quite hit anyone else with the double blast. Just dodge the Voldgeist. But Vanessa's there ready to go. But as I said, it's a little bit of an overextension. I get immediately punished with it. This is perhaps one of the most important parts of this first turn. Mr. Killjoy, not doing what he normally does. He moves and he chucks out a hooked chain onto Vanessa, and Darren has got a pull and drag basically trigger in hand, ready and raring to go. So we both flip for it. It gets an 18 to my 17 after cheating, but as I said, Darren declares pull and drag, which is an additional 3-inch push. So it's a 6-inch push towards him with a weak of 2 damage, down to 1 because of her arcane shielded. And annoyingly for me, because I overextended Vanessa, because I didn't use the full range of her range action, she gets pulled right into the fray, which forces my hand. We're kind of like holding off between Viktoria and Titania. I have to now go. So I go with Big Sis Vic, my non-leader one. She's moved 7 because she's activated right near the Emissary, and she starts to move forward. Now she's going to go for Killjoy, because obviously he's the potential threat going into next turn with the damage, and knowing that I have a stat 7 katana, always good. So once she's got her sister nearby, once they've used their bonus action to get a shielded each, she charges in with her stat 7. But we have a terrifying test that we need to pass. Vic's hate terrifying. I fail it, so I have to cheat it, which means the inhuman reflexes is going to go off straight after this is completed. So we flip our cards. I cheat in to go to a 17 to Darren's 12. Double negative flip here, which ends up with a weak of 3 damage, but I did get the mask with the cheating, so I get that one counts as mine trigger, which means another friendly model may make an attack action against the target, ignoring friendly fire. So in this case, I use Vanessa. In later turns, you want to do it with both Vics, so just to get the stat 7 attacks off. So Vanessa no longer stat 8, but still chucks a tactical nuke with her arcane staff onto Mr. Killjoy. We managed to get a moderate with this attack, which is 3 damage with a blast. So that would be 2 onto the emissary, which goes down to 1 with its armor. And the emissary's armor is doing so much strength here, as you can see. So 1 more AP left, and the Vic has a very difficult decision here. Does she stay there, potentially ready to be picked off by Titania, or do we just kind of tactically retreat, knowing that we've got move 7? As much as I want to get a kill off to heal Vanessa, because they all have the ability to heal each other when they get a kill, discretion very much is the better part of valor here. I'd rather lose Vanessa than lose a Viktoria, because they are just murder machines. So we just back away towards the turf wall marker in case we need to activate that. And yeah, you see the punishment of my overextension here. Titania goes and steps up to the plate. First thing she does is she uses a Germinate. Darren spends one of his soul stones to get a mask, which allows him to get the teleport and place himself into base contact with the marker. This then allows her to use a Queen's Command, which is where she moves one of these underbrush markers underneath a nearby enemy, and they take a point of damage. I think it's like stat 8 needing a 10, so literally just needs to flip a 2. Pretty certainly Red Joker's it. And now that it's there, it means Titania's Awaken Hunger range attack gets a positive due to her being in severe terrain. And it means the Into Thorns trigger that pretty much this whole crew has, which is +1 damage, is pretty nasty. So we both flip to start with, down on a positive 16, but I get an 18 because I have to cheat up here. So it kind of doesn't go off because I'm trying to desperately keep Vanessa alive. Killjoy again then gets to move, which he just kind of backs off after taking that kind of earlier damage with his inhuman reflexes. And then Titania simply goes again with her Awaken Hunger. It's an 18 to a 14 with the Into Thorns trigger, 3 damage and injured, which is pretty vile on poor Vanessa. And of course, because of the Into Thorns trigger, you also get to move the target into the severe terrain. So again, just moves Vanessa a little bit closer to make it a little bit harder for the Vics to get round and charge in. So I have to go with my leader Vic. Again, she activates. She could bring her big sis close to her, but instead she just moves forward with a +7 move within 2 inches, or +7, 7-inch move even, thanks to the MSA. Moves within 2 of her sister, puts the shielded up just in case. And yeah, I probably should have focused down the emissary, but it would be in another move and only 1 AP on attack. So instead I try and put some pressure on Titania with some attacks here, knowing that her defense of 5 isn't great, even though she can turn off my severe damage. Min 3 is always good. So first attack, stat 7 versus defense 5, flip a 13, so we get a 20. Again, we get the that one counts as mine trigger, which is great. Minimum of 3 damage, which Darren then stones, reducing it down to 1. Vanessa then makes an attack action on Titania with her arcane staff. So I'm definitely getting my use out of it. You can see why this triangle is vile in later turns. And Darren is very clear to try and remove Vanessa. Triple negative flip, weak of 2 damage on Titania. She doesn't stone this time, but you know, she's got a Vic nearby for leech life for the next turn, so she's probably less worried about it. We've got 1 more AP left with the Vic. I'm at the whim of my deck here, 9 versus 12, and it misses. And that leaves us with the Emissary, the Avatar of Insanity. Heals when it activates, thanks to Planted Roots, and then it basically would just soul-crushingly heal all the damage that I did to it this turn, because it has Drink Blood in its attack action. So Darren charges me, stat 6 versus defense 4 because of injured, 18 versus 16, 3 damage, knocks me straight down to my hard to kill, while the Emissary heals 3 of that damage that I did to it begrudgingly. Then, very simply, just goes for 1 more attack. I'm on 1 health. All Darren needs to do is hit with it. He's already used his Black Joker. 13 to 11 gets 2 damage. Drink Blood again to heal 2. Just removes Vanessa off the board, or heal 1 even with the hard to kill. So losing Vanessa turn 1 is really rough. Thankfully, there's no scoring turn 1. I've managed to turn on a few markers, but losing that model so early means that I'm really desperate to try and get the initiative flip as we go into turn 2 with the Vic, so I can try and get some kills off. But, what do you know, Darren manages to win the initiative flip, which means that he now has the option to have a really good attack on the Vics before they then use their synchronized, usually, 2 attacks on the bounce. So it means Titania and the Emissary are both really healthy, with Killjoy lurking in the shadows. And here we go into turn 2 then, and unsurprisingly, Darren goes first with Titania. He's super concerned about these 2 Vics. He wants to try and get some damage and try and get some blocking in the way. So the first thing he does is a Queen's Command, and of course, first flip of the turn, Sod's Law, he flips his Red Joker. So that pushes a marker into base contact with my leader Vic. does a ping of damage to her, but more importantly, it now sets up positive flips for Titania's Awakened Hunger stat 6 attacks. That's exactly what she's going to do against the Vic's stat 6 defense. After some flipping and some cheating, it takes it to 18 versus 18, which is a double negative flip for Darren. I'm having to cheat in quite a lot of severes here. I've got quite a good hand to start this turn, but I'm needing to try and limit the damage that this takes. This is 2 damage, which I then stone. I do not want to lose a Vic this quickly, and stone both of it down to 0. So Darren goes for another attack. After, again, a little bit of cheating from me, takes it to 16 versus 16. This time we have the Into Thorns trigger, which is +1 damage and allows him to place a Vic within that severe terrain, getting her away from her big sister for teleporting shenanigans. So 3 damage going through. Again, I stone it, reduce it by 1 to 2, but my Victoria leader now has injured, meaning she's infinitely killable by all the big Gribblies nearby. You can see Darren here measuring the 6-inch distance just to pull her away from her sister's teleport. There is still a Vic on Titania's doorstep though, so she's not super brave. She wants to try and get herself a little bit out of trouble. So after eyeing it up, Darren goes for a Germinate action, gets his Cradle of Life trigger after cheating, which allows him to not only create a severe underbrush marker, but also teleport into base contact with it. You can see him measuring the distance here, just trying to make sure what is not a Dragon's Bite and charge away, because even though the Death Triangle's being destroyed, it's still pretty dangerous there, and you can see Titania just safely goes to the comfort of the middle of the crew. So I am kind of forced to activate here. I have to go with my leader Vic. She regens the 1 damage that she took from the underbrush. And the first thing she's got to do is she just tactically walks 4 inches out of the severe terrain. So I decide to pop off a shot with the Vic, well known for their guns. So I pass his terrifying test, and then I go with the stat 5 versus defense of 4. 13 to 12 leads to a double negative flip. Get a moderate though, 4 damage, which kills him, or like temporarily kills him. Obviously he heals 4 and buries himself, but I do manage to heal 2 because of Into the Fray. So I've healed a lot of the damage that has gone through, but I am still a little bit injured. So I've got an option here. I could kind of barrel in with a charge into the emissary, or I could backtrack and let the big sis do the heavy lifting. And to no surprise, that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to move to within 2 inches of the big sis Vic, make sure we get our double shielded off, and just kind of reset myself for another charge as we go in a little bit later. So they're all ready to go for the next activations, and we go to the emissary. So this emissary is going to use a really important ability for this turn, which is Aura of Deception, which is a bonus action, which allows you to cheat face down, which is a nightmare. You don't know if he's cheating high or low. So gets it off, and that means that I now have to guess what Darren is cheating when he does. He then goes to put an attack onto Big Sis Vic, uses his Root from Below ability. Gets a 16 to my 17, thankfully, after we do a little bit of shenanigan cheating. Him face down, I managed to beat it just by 1, which leads for the action to fail. Because again, I don't want another Vic to be at half health and then have the Rougarou or a Reborn Killjoy come and wreck it. So he goes for another attack here. Darren manages to get it this time, 19 to my 17, after I again cheat my gorgeous hand of severes that could have been amazing for attacks if I would have won initiative. Negative flip, 2 damage down to 1 thanks to the shielded, and Big Sis Vic is staying here. Now, from an attacking emissary to a defensive one, my one just moves on up. It pops out its Weary Road on Big Sis Vic, try and create like a charge avenue for her, and also puts down a scheme marker for Covetous Cravings purposes. We then just move ourselves up, so just both auras are overlapping for the +1 move and the healing. So that takes us to the Bulltonguing brothers, and they are going to, first of all, toss 1 in the mud. Now, it throws it 2 inches, but unfortunately, as Darren realises, it does kind of remove the focus, but it's a worthwhile risk, because what it does is it moves his brother within 6 inches of that turf wall marker to be able to turn it off. Bulltonguing bro number 1 then just takes a casual little walk 6 inches round so they can keep each other protected. I then spend one of my pass tokens because I really don't want to activate anything too quickly, so Darren goes with the big doggo, the Rougarou. Really easy activation. It moves up towards the fence here and just roars at the emissary to move it onto severe terrain. So if it starts getting attacked, it can kind of heal at the start of its activation. And I'm just holding off here because the big Sis Vic is the last big activation I have. So I'm trying to hold off as much of the activations as I can, try and get Darren to move his models to... Absolutely no surprise then, I play another pass token, but Darren's clever. He activates Killjoy, who's currently buried, and Killjoy obviously can't do anything, so it does have to come back to me. So I have to go with this kind of flanking Ronin here. She does her on a move escape plan, comes around the side, and she's going to charge and target the Voldgeist, because my thinking is, if I can take him off the board, then the only thing Killjoy can burst out of is Titania, and that's, more of a pain for Darren. So the Voldgeist uses its focus on defense, 17 to 16 in favor of me, with cheat with the puncture trigger. So this attack is ignoring armor thanks to their katana, but it is a mere 2 damage that goes through. So, I don't have any cards to flurry. I've spent my hand by this point, and Darren is now acutely aware of what I was trying, so he immediately activates the Voldgeist. Now, a cool thing that I didn't know is that even if Killjoy's activated the turn, when he bursts out of something's chest, a la Alien, he gets to activate all over again. So Darren's really clever here. Like, the Voldgeist heals one when he attacks, when he starts his activation, but he just gets a cheap attack off at the Ronin. It's a 9 to 18, it fails. But it's a free attack, because the next action Darren does is he brings out Killjoy. So it's a really good way to just get a cheap attack, see if it goes off from the sacrifice. So anyway, Killjoy comes out. He comes to give this Ronin a very sad time, we can say. So his big cleaver attacks first. The Ronin does particularly well, 13 to 16 to make it miss. Not so much on the second attack. We get a 19 to a 16 this time. And yeah, oh, I know I do have a card left still in my hand. I must have just kept it for defensive purposes, so not flurry. But anyway, Darren gets an attack through, negative flip, weak of 3 damage, just literally halves the Ronin's health. Killjoy's on 4 health at the moment. Darren just juggernauts to heal him up to 5, meaning he's pretty healthy, pretty good to go at this stage. And yeah, you don't want him back on the battlefield. I go with my little student of conflict. She's got a basic activation. She moves, she tries to put the covetous cravings out onto the emissary. Unfortunately, flips a 5, does not get it to go off and fails there. Over to Bulltungin Bro number 2. As you expect, he just kind of shimmies on up and turns off this turf walk marker. And he just gets ready to rumble for the next turn. Those two are just playing their own game. I go with my Ronin on the other side of the board. She moves and interacts for reasons, for scoring reasons. And Darren responds with his Gurrar, who's also going to do the same thing. Walk and turn on this turf war marker. So this takes us to the last big activation of the turn, which is going to be Big Sis Vic. And we'll see what she can get off. I again want to get myself into position here, so both Vics are threatening going into next turn, hoping to win the initiative flip. So we immediately Sisters in Spirit, we Setting Sun for the double shielded, not that it matters too much at the end of the turn. And yeah, we've got 7-inch move thanks to the emissary, so we charge Darren's emissary. So this is a stat 7, 19 to the Black Joker of 6 with the Bloody Fate trigger, which was a mistake for me to declare. It's the draw 1, discard 1. So 4 damage down to 3 with the positive flip, and I draw a card and discard a card, and it was the 13 of Rams, which is really frustrating because it's then 10 to 13 failed attack, 14 to 15 failed attack, and super sad when I could have got a shot off with the other Vic. So at the end of the turn, we're both successful in scoring a turf war, and my Ronin unsurprisingly scores breakthrough. We have some deadly pursuits and some on the moves, and we both stone our hands. Now, I really need to win this initiative as we go into the next turn. We managed to flip relatively well. Darren flips low, I flip a 12, but he cheats in the 13 to win the initiative going into this next turn. That's absolutely huge, because obviously both Viktorias are lined up ready to rumble again. So tell me if you've heard this one before. Titania is going to lead the activations. She's going to start off with a Germinate action to try and put a marker in front of the Big Sis Vic to try and, like, you know, slow down her move. So Darren cheats it to get it off. He then follows this up with a Queen's Command, hoping to then interact with both. So he gets the double move here of both of the underbrush markers, the one that is next to Big Sis Vic, which pushes into it to do a point of damage, and the other one to, as you can see, close the corridor of the charge, which is a really smart move. Also opens up his Awakened Hunger attack now. So he flips with a positive, gets a 15 to my 19 after cheating, and he fails that attack. I'm desperately trying to keep hold of these Vics so I can get this goddamn charge off. Second attack, again with the positive flip for Darren, gets an 11 to my 18. Again, fails. I get very lucky with this. So now we've got some big activations on the bounce. So Big Sis Vic steps up. Not a great hand left, and I had to use my high ram, which I've been keeping for Dragon's Bite. So we teleport the leader Vic in, we put our shielded hut, and then I've got to pick a target, and I'm going to go for the emissary. So I charge myself in despite the severe terrain, and I go with my stat 7 attack versus its defense of 6. So with this one, we get a 14 to 15, which unfortunately fails after cheating. Really wanted the first attack to kind of go through, but I just do not have the hand for it. And Darren's not got a great hand either, so we don't really know what we're doing. Second attack managed to do a little bit better. 17 versus 11 with the Bloody Fate trigger, which is hugely important. Negative flip of 4 damage down to 3, and I managed to draw the 13 of masks, which is super handy to get rid of that 4 of rams. So third flip, we managed to get a 20 versus 16 with that mask in hand, with that one counts as mine trigger. So negative flip going through, minimum of 3 damage down to 2 with the armor, and then my leader Vic goes. Now, unfortunately, this is just a Hail Mary. There's concealing terrain in the way, so negative flip for me, flip next to nothing, and fail. So I have to pitch a card because I'm going to go with my Synchronize now. Now, I'm outside of 2 inches of the Big Sis Vic to start with, so I charge the Emissary for my first AP. 15 to 14 on a negative flip does 3 damage, which takes the Emissary down to its hard to kill. Now that I'm within 2 inches of the other Vict, I get to put the shielded up and get them protected. And I'm also kind of eyeing up Dragon's Bite. So we have to get rid of this Emissary first and then try and see if we can put some hurt on other models. So final attack going through 18 versus 16. Gets the kill in and also manages to flip that Turf War marker that's near the Gorah and heal Big Sis Vic thanks to Into the Fray. So, at this point I'm eyeing up targets for the Dragon's Bite. I stone it and flip, and of course I flip a ram. Of course I flip the ram even though I stoned for it. So I get the Dragon's Fang free attack after I do a little bit of pushing with both Viktorias. Stat 7 versus Titania's defense of 5, I want to say. She's not got the best defense in the world, but it doesn't matter when I flip up to a 13 and Darren gets his red Joker, which takes him way above. So that leaves me open for Killjoy. Killjoy gets stuck in straight away. If he charges through underbrush markers, he gets a positive to his flip, which is quite nasty. So he goes straight into my lead of it, trying to do some big damage on her. 17 to 14, gets a negative flip afterwards, but manages to get 2 severes, so 6 damage, down to 3 health. So yeah, it's not great. So I use my shielded, use a stone, managed to reduce it down to 3. So she's not quite insta dead, but it's not very nice. Second attack goes from 17 to 16. Again, another negative flip. 4 damage this time, down to 3 thanks to the shielded again. 2 HP left on my leader Vic. She is not happy after that. So I send in my Emissary, but at this point Darren and I have depleted both of our decks. So my Emissary Weary Roads puts a marker down, moves, and then tries to Plenty of Wares leader Vic. So I'm trying to top deck this. And of course, when you top deck it, nothing goes through. I fail miserably. So we go on to the Gorah. The Gorah then takes a focused shot, thanks to its focus into the melee, into my leader Vic to get around the friendly fire. 9 versus 7, negative flip. Could do the damage to kill her, but of course, Black Joker's it. Of course, that's just the way it is. Darren decides to throw out a Hail Mary with the negative flip on the second attack, and yeah, just fails it miserably. So at this point, everything has just completely broken down. So I go with a Ronin. She gets her free move round. She just shimmies around this fence and charges the Gorah. I'm trying to block off the path of the Rugru between that fence and that Turf War marker. So we get stuck in, see what we can do. 16 versus 13, thankfully. The reposition trigger, which is really important. A double negative flip, which is 3 knights for a moderate of 3 damage, which knocks it down to 1 health. And more importantly, the reposition just pushes me back to block off the Rugru from that move. Darren goes to his oblique activations. He goes with a Boltungin. It moves and charges the Student of Conflict. It's got a focus. Darren flips his focused attack with a 15 versus my turn to Black Joker of a 4. Positive flip, 4 health on a Student of Conflict. Darren immediately flips a severe, knows he can't get his Black Joker. Just one-shots the little girl. She's had enough of the Comforter's cravings. Just take her clean off the board. So he's not quite within range to mess with my scheme mark, and we go over to my Ronin, who just kind of shimmies herself up to Killjoy and tries to get some attacks off. Now, we do forget the Terrifying to start with, but it doesn't matter too much because the Ronin's attack is pants. She gets a 13 to Darren 16 top decking, and then on the second attack she fails her Terrifying, and really I'm struggling for ideas now of how to get through this big chunky meat of HP that's there. And then things get compounded. They go from bad to worse. This Rugru focuses and then charges my leader Vic. Rugru with a 6 damage severe, I didn't remember that part of its stat. 17 to my 16 with a puncture trigger, so with the focus on top takes it to a positive flip. And what do you know? Severe of 6 damage. Good job I got shielded, knocks it down to 5. That's my leader Vic at 3 HP. Neither of them are particularly healthy, and it's putting more focus on me needing to win the initiative flip next to heal up. The Boltungin easily scores a point, and that takes us to the end of the turn following that Turf War. We both managed to score a Turf War marker, and the Rugru, being a minion, gets catch and release. He's next to a master, he's next to one of the Vics. So the really important part is this next initiative flip. I have a pass token in hand. I drew an amazing hand, so I just need to win or get the initiative and cheat in a 13. But what do you know? I Black Joker it, and Darren gets to go first again, and I'm now in a really precarious position where I can't use the Vic's healing by getting some easy kills off. They're now infinitely killable, and this is perhaps the turning point of the game. And here we are going into the fourth turn then, and Titania is going to step up, and she's going to insta-kill my Vic. So she's going to put a lot of hurt on people. First thing she goes with is Queen's Command. She gets the Land Obeys trigger, puts 2 markers into my leader Vic. Point of damage for each, just takes her clean off the board. And foolishly, I forget that Vics have a demise ability, and they get really angry, and you get positive flips on your defense. Not that it matters too much. My hand is pretty garbage in this one. So, an Awakened Hunger next against Big Sis Vic. If Darren flips in, we cheat to an 18 on both sides for me. Double negative flip. But Darren has the Interthorns trigger, flips his damage, gets 5 damage, and takes her down to... well, just straight death, really, you know, takes her off the board clean. So now Titania's got her pick of 2 Ronin to beat up. She goes for the Ronin at the bottom of your screen first. Stat 6 versus its defense of 5, 19 to 13. Gets a straight flip with a severe of 5 damage, which knocks it down to it's hard to kill. Good job I've got a whole crew of hard to kill, otherwise this would be pretty painful. So not content to destroy that Ronin, she goes and attacks the other Ronin. Again, same statistics, 17 to 14 this time, meaning it's a negative flip, and Darren manages to flip 2 damage. So yeah, my crew's not doing great, not doing great. But never mind, I have a superpower. My superpower is that I can cheat. From this point onwards, I keep thinking Ronin has 3 AP. Maybe it's because I've lost a Vic, so she like literally moves and puts down 2 scheme markers because apparently I can. Darren goes with Killjoy and steps on, walks, charges, gets a positive to cancel out the manipulative of the emissary. 12 versus 15 this time with a bit of cheating, so it fails. So he just kind of juggernauts to heal himself back up to 5 HP. And then I'm left with my Ronin to go, and Titania has leech life, so I just activate and die. So Darren goes straight away with his Gora, flips the Turf War marker on, and he goes for a mold in the other, trying to go for his emissary. So I think he needs like a 12 or something for this to go off. He could have gone with the Voldgeist if he would have flipped an 8. And, you know, sod's law, what's the number that he flips? He names emissary, but of course he flipped an 8. So does not go off, I'm afraid. So I go my emissary now. It weary roads itself to put down another marker. And, you know, that big dog that ruined a Vic, I'm going to start throwing junk at it because I'm annoyed. So 19 to 10 goes off. Negative flip due to hard to wound, though, sadly. So I get a moderate of 3 damage with the delay trigger, which is built in. And then we go for another attack, which is perhaps the worst flip because we've not got great hands or cards left. 7 to 5 this time. Double negative flip again because of the hard to wound. And this takes it down to 2 damage. So 2 damage going through. It's chipping away, but the Rougarou is going to step up now, and it's going to do exactly what it did last turn. It's going to focus, and it's going to charge. But first of all, it's going to shrug off that condition, thanks to its bonus action, and it's going to barrel into the emissary, who obviously doesn't have the protection of a manipulative anymore. So this is 17 to my 12. With the focus, it takes it up to a straight flip. And what do you know? The Rougarou flips, 6 damage. Takes the emissary down to 4 health. The Boltungan boys are pretty much just doing their own thing at this stage. This one moves and turns the Turf Walker off. This second one moves up and just forages to get rid of that scheme marker and draw. I think it was like an 11 Darren had in his deck left. And that takes this turn very quickly to the end. So Darren manages to score Turf War. I somehow managed to let them bleed because I knocked the Rougarou down to half health. So both Killjoy and the Rougarou are down. And yeah, we go for initiative, and Darren flips a 13. He's again going to win the initiative. Every single initiative flip of this game he's got. But at this point, there's not much I have left on the board. Even with my cheaty 3 AP Ronin, I'm really struggling for points. So Darren's focus for this final turn is just to deny my breakthrough. He's going to go straight for my emissary to begin with. So Titania's going to focus to get around the manipulative, and then she's going to go for an Awakened Hunger. So this is going to be a stat of 6 versus his defense of 6. We both managed to flip and get ourselves to a 17 on both sides, which is a negative flip, you know, with the focus cancelling out the double neg. Darren does have the Interthorns trigger, manages to flip a mighty 5 damage, which knocks the emissary straight down to its hard to kill. Makes it very killable now, because then all she has to do is flip her Queen's Command, which she does with him cheating it in, pushes a marker into him, does the point of damage, which kills him. So Titania then is looking to oversee what's happening with this final piece on the board. She goes with a Germinate with her trigger to teleport into a marker. Darren's trying to think about where he's going to measure this in. It really doesn't matter at this stage, to be fair. He's just got to pile Killjoy and the Rougarou into this Ronin. But Titania just gets herself a little bit closer just in case the Ronin gets greedy, so that, you know, leech life or weird things could happen if there's any kind of pushing that occurs. So you can see him just move himself over here. And also just blocking a little bit of a pathway to get to that turf wall. So over to the Boltungan, I'm just going to keep passing. I've got 4 pass tokens here, so I'm trying to hold off my Ronin as long as possible. So we've got a Boltungan who moves and interacts. Killjoy moves up. He's going to try and hook chain against the Ronin. Neither of us are flipping particularly well at this stage of the game. I get a 6. Darren gets his Black Joker, so it fails. So Killjoy just juggernauts, heals himself 1 extra HP. Not that the Let Them Bleed matters too much now. The Boltungan have got away from me, not being able to do enough damage. So I pass again. The Gorar just does a little bit of a double move. I pass another time, and now we realise that actually catch and release, you just need to get the model over the halfway line. We kept thinking it had to be near a master, so the Rougarou just goes over the halfway line and kind of laughs from afar, having that point in play. And I go back with my cheaty Ronin. I've gone full cheat by this point. Post-lunch cheating is just seriously a thing. So I move and interact, then I move, but then I charge, which is the 3rd AP that I'm not supposed to do. But I go for Killjoy and try and see if I can put some damage on him. So we barrel ourselves in. I pass the Terrifying. 14 versus Darren's cheated in Red Joker. Doesn't really do anything to it. I mess with Darren a little bit here, and I just try and do like another attack by throwing the Katana, but I failed the Terrifying, because at this point I've lost all sense. I'm just throwing blades. This Boltungan is then going to play Denial. It's going to move twice. The Forage ability is amazing. These guys have been errated since this battle report, but they're already really good in this battle. You know, I think they were punching above their, say, meta weight. And yeah, he just removes this marker to ensure that that's been denied. And that brings us to the end of this turn. So as we go into the end of the game, Darren scores another turf wall, which has been fantastic by him. The Boltungan have done such good work. And he gets his second Let Them Bleed point because obviously I've not got much health left. And a catch and release, which brings the final score to 6.24 in favour of Titania. And yeah, what a wonderful game. Watching this back again, I'm really pleased at how well it came out. And I want to say a massive thank you to Darren. So closing thoughts will be losing Vanessa turn 1 was incredibly painful, and the initiative flips and the tit for tat that went with that could have gone either way. Very much that double Vic synchronized kind of activation at the start. Darren did really well to play against that and defended it effectively, and Titania did some really good work just moving markers and putting good damage out. And the Rougarou, oh my god, 6 damage is brutal on a severe. So that brings us to the end of this shorter form MaliFAST battle report. This is just something new we're trying out. It's not going to replace any of the main battle reports. We're going to do something different each time. So the next one is between me and Chris. We're going to both try and commentate alternate turns and see how that goes. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to go over to the main battle report that came out last week and name your MVP for a chance to win a copy of Malifaux Burns and an iconic Fate deck. But a massive thank you for tuning in, guys. I hope to see you in the next one, and have a great day. Well, a massive thank you for watching that video, guys. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you want to find some more, they should be over here. And if you want to support the channel and the content that we create here, there's links to our Patreon and merchandise in the description below. Take care.